Okay, so what we're doing now is just the antique ground, you know. It's basically to seal the wood, you know, and we're doing patina. And you can do I have two phases of patina, you know, to make it look old. And I think a lot of makers do all the patina at the end, but I do both. So what I'm really after is I'm trying to get the wood brown, you know, because no matter what color you're doing, the instrument is white, so you know you don't want that. You put yellow, you start with brown. My stages are brown, then yellow, a little bit of yellow, and then wherever I want to go. And the reason that you do yellow is because you want it to glow, you know. It's the same thing with fresco painting, or if you ever tried to make a painting of human skin, you just say, oh, okay, skin is pink, so I'm gonna do, it won't glow. So basically what I'm using is, I have my instrument. Well, first let's discuss the colors. I'll try to go as quickly as possible. It's going to take a while to seal the instrument. When you're ordering, I'm ordering from Hammerl or Joha in Germany, and this is lavender oil. The colors that are good from Hammerl are going to be pretty much yellow. You see I have a crap load of yellow. I got half a liter, but I could buy no problem buying a liter and it will last me forever. And the main issue with Hammerl colors is that everything is orange. So you have golden yellow, you have red brown, and they tend to, you're going to encounter when you're varnishing what I call the orange demon. And there's a good orange and there's a bad orange. A bad orange looks like fruit, you know. So you don't want that. You can also use gamboge. It's very poisonous though, but this is it gives a more pineapple color. But right now, we're going to get into that later. We may have to either edit this video or fast forward it, you know, or I'm not sure. We're just going to roll. So basically, my shellac flakes. This is a spiritus or alcohol-based lac, and you see I need to make an order. It's getting pretty low. But that's basically this dissolved in alcohol. And you see it has a color. What is the color? Orange, right? It's actually kind of yellow. Now, when you dissolve this in alcohol, I do 50-50, 50, 1-to-1. And this is going to be pretty thick, actually. And you want it thick because later you're going to want to add color. This is just the coffee can Illy coffee top. And I've had these for over 20 years, believe it or not. So this is probably going to be a little thick. Yeah, so this is a tiny bit of Hammerl yellow. Let me make some space here because you don't need to see anymore. And I've got all kinds of varnishing materials over here, and they're all mixed in with, unfortunately, with the perfume Abteilung. So you have perfumery and you have varnish all in one section. It's not very ideal, you know. But some of the things that I use for perfumery, you can also use for varnish, believe it or not. I have tea tinctures, which is, I have Darjeeling, I have Earl Grey tinctures, and I've experimented with doing that, and I think in the end it's it's not a way to get a good brown, so let's just forget that for now. So right now we just want to cover the surface. In fact, I can get rid of all this stuff. So when you look at the instrument, you'll see the surface of it is what we discussed before, is actually kind of lumpy, you know? And that's what I want, you know? I want uneven thicknesses. I mean, that's a different conversation. I've prepared it. I've done a little bit of preparation and pore filling with powdered horsetail. And then that gives you a kind of portrait of the kind of what's going to show up and what's not going to show up. Huh? No problem. Bronco's back there working, so yeah. So now, right now, I just want to cover the surface with a spiritus lac, you know, or varnish. So and you want to try to get as evenly as possible. So in the beginning, this is really going to suck it up, you know. You can see I'm dabbing it on this first, but I actually don't really need to do that right now because the wood is really sucking up the varnish. And in reality, we're actually going to remove most of this. So, oh, there's the mixer. All right, we'll just have to edit. We'll have to edit that out, obviously.
Was that the mixer?
Yeah, the mixer's here.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so the reason I'm using a small brush is that really I want the varnish to absorb unevenly. I mean, I want it even, but it's going to come into the wood differently in different places, you know. And I think that that's good, you know, because when you have a vibrating plate, you don't want a robot, you know. You want it to be oops. just went in directly in alcohol. It's fine. And at this point, you start to see tool marks. You see I have a lot of tool marks here. For me, that there are acceptable and unacceptable tool marks. So that's going to be something you need to decide. I like tool marks. And if you look at the original instrument, it looks like it's just been put through a meat grinder. I mean, the edges are all mangled, and I think it doesn't even have a purfling. It's like Sima Pane, he really cut a lot of corners when he was making it, and I didn't really realize this until I started following in his footsteps. I'm like, wow, okay, well, this scroll, you know, the scroll that he did, it's super cool. But I realized as I was cutting it, like, wow, that went really fast, you know, like, so, I don't know, you can look, I may put some photos up of the original, anyway, so the corners and stuff and the edge work, this is something that I just had to invent, because you can't copy something that's mangled, right? It's like, and you know, the corners, they get a lot of abuse, you know. Cellists and musicians tend to put the instrument, they put it on the floor, you know, this way, and that's rough on the corners. So as you can see, I'm just kind of slopping it on, you know, because it's going to really suck up a lot, and I want that, you know. So you would not want to do this with an oil varnish, because oil varnishes have resin in them, and for me this is not good. This is not acoustic. So you know, remember you said you saw a violin maker just applying the oil varnish, and he was just very fast, and he probably used a pore filler. And if you look at the PDF, Roger Hargrave on making a bass, he actually uses plaster of Paris, I believe, and then he's slathering it into the wood to create a seal, you know. Because, yeah, I mean, the plate is vibrating, and you want something that's going to be acoustic, you know. Boy, that looks cool. I've been looking forward to varnishing this rosette here. So, yeah, so actually Mockel in Kunst des Geigenbaus says that Spiritus Lac is the best sounding. And in my opinion, I have to agree with him. So basically this is just, you know, Spiritus varnish right into the wood. Oh, like I say, I use the horsetail a little bit as a pore filler. And it gives me a kind of portrait of, you can kind of see that here. You can see this like dark area here. Yeah, so I can be a little less careful with what I'm doing now, because it's really sucking it up. But the general rule is what? Mach immer etwas schön. always make something beautiful. So you do want to be careful, because if you start making mistakes, if the varnish is too thick, that will be there forever. Even though we're going to get to the stage where where we're actually removing. We're adding, we're removing, and we're adding, and we are removing. And alcohol is good for wood, in my opinion, yeah? So, alcohol and lavender oil are good for the instrument. And one thing you might see when you read up on varnishing, where makers say that their instruments sound better in the white without varnish. And the first time I read that, I'm like, what? Like, mine sounds so much better with varnish. In fact, you will start to hear it waking up. Because really, what I'm doing now is I'm sealing it with alcohol. It has alcohol and it has some, varnish in there too. But so I start to be a little more careful now, because it's actually. You just don't want any like crazy puddles, you know. I mean, I want it to be, it's going to absorb it unevenly because I've been very careful when I'm preparing the surface. That it's not perfectly smooth and the same everywhere. So you're going to have some rough spots. I can see here it's a little rough. And this is for two reasons. The first one is tone, and the second is antiquing, you know. An antique instrument has varnish in different amounts in different places. So then you get into the question of micro-tuning, and which is basically removing varnish in strategic areas, and that was trending for a while, I think, in the 90s, micro-tuning. And it does make sense to do that, to micro-tune. But that's another video. But I would say read everything on that. If you go to Keith Hill's website, he's an American luthier. I think he's in Missouri. I'm not sure where he is, but read everything that he writes, because it's just great stuff. I think he talks a little about varnish. I can't remember. But he does his pricing, actually. I think he does his pricing, you know, it costs what I say it costs. You know, it costs, like one instrument, he doesn't have, okay, violins are 12,000, or, you know, cellos are 25. You know, he evaluates the sound of an instrument, and he prices it accordingly, and I think that's kind of cool, actually. But anyway, he's also a harpsichord maker, and he has just great thoughts on acoustics and the subjectivity of a sound, and why it sounds good and why it doesn't sound good, and several different stages of sort of metaphorical. He has the crazy amount of stages of, you know, why something sounds good or why something doesn't sound good. So read everything. I'll probably put a link down in the description for. So if you're a young maker, I'd read everything by him. I read everything that on Roger Hargrave's website. Read all that stuff. Just read it, you know. Wie bitte? Now you can talk.
Lepto die floppy dos. I'm trying to get my math around the word.
Yeah.
Lepto die floppy dos.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bronco Springfield, the great musician. Okay, so it's, yeah, we could probably even fast forward. We're already at 20 minutes, but yeah, normally I would be doing the whole entire instrument, so I think that's just going to take forever, you know. This thing is so huge. So for now, I'm just going to do the top and demonstrate my kind of basic antiquing technique. And you want to get it like nice, like really saturated everywhere. Because when you see what I'm about to do, I'm about to add patina and color. And then I'm going to remove it. But if you have any areas that are bare wood, they will turn black. So the technique that I'm using is I learned from a Slovakian guy. Actually, I guess you could kind of call him a forger, but I don't know if what classifies forgery, you know. He would take antique instruments, and this was, I think it's pretty safe to talk about this because this was in the 1990s, so I'm assuming this guy is dead. But for now, let's just call him Mouse. And the people in Vienna who know him will probably really laugh at that, so. But he did these stunning antique varnishes. But he only had two songs in his toolbox. He could only do red and black. Red for French because a lot of French violins have dragon's blood. But his red dragon's blood varnishes were just stunning. I mean, they looked so real. And the thing is, he would take antique violins and veredel them, you know. Make them look more beautiful and more older. And this is really a kind of crappy thing to do. Like, you know, because you're destroying the work of the maker, you know. You're disguising it. You're making it look older. But essentially, though, he was doing this with factory fiddles. So I'm not sure that, you know, like this Czech factory fiddle with its you know, made in Lübeck or not Lübeck, but made in yeah, I mean, when the Russians took over, I guess Czech violin making just got screwed, you know. I mean, all these great Czech makers were forced to work in factories and make absolute junk instruments out of. Anyway, so I begged him, I'm like, Mouse, you gotta show me like this, your antique varnishes and how are you doing it? And he's like, you know, you can't varnish. I was like, well, yes, I can. He's like, well, it's going to take you 10 years. And I said, well, I have 10 years, you know. This was like 1990 something. And finally, I agreed, you know, he came up. And he was probably scared, too, like, you know, do I trust this guy? But... So, and the reason that you antique is because they won't sell, you know. Every violin maker prefers, most violin makers would prefer just a pristinely perfect varnish, you know. But these tend not to sell, you know. Musicians want antiques, you know. So, but, I mean, that's not 100% true. Some musicians like just a straight, what I call a straight varnish, you know. So you can see there are like a lot of tool marks starting to pop out. But yeah, that's a good question. What is a forgery, you know? It's not a... if you're actually making an instrument with the intent to deceive, you know, and then saying it is that, then that would be considered forgery. But I guess what he was doing these stunning dragon's blood varnishes. I mean, they were just gorgeous. And then just putting them on eBay, you know, I found this in the attic. I don't know anything about it, and you know, people. It's kind of it really is a crappy thing to do, but this has been going on for centuries, unfortunately. But and what really sucks is that if it does happen to be a handmade instrument, you're removing the identity of that artist. And speaking of Bohemian makers, there were Bohemian violin making, well, in Hungary as well, they were incredible. They were just as good as the Italians, you know. So that's why most a really good Bohemian instrument, probably at one point or another during the 19th century, somehow got an Italian label shoved inside it. And why is that? Because the workmanship was so incredible, you know. Or as Jose Vasquez would say, that flies the Italian flag, you know. Bless him, he has now left us. It's a very, very sad thing. He died from COVID, which is just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Right before the vaccine came out. So, yeah, the instrument that we are copying was in the Orphean Consort collection. And I used to be able to just write him an email or to get dimensions. Or if I needed to see the instrument in person, he had a flat near Praterstrasse. It was kind of like a harem inside that. It was just this amazing place. You know that area near Praterstrasse where it's like all brick streets?
Oh yeah.
It's like this little like pocket of Vienna that feels like really old. It's just, there's a couple cafes there. It's just
I know what you mean.
yeah, it's a wealth. I think now to live there would be insane. I don't know who got that apartment when he died. But yeah, you go in his house, there were just like, I don't know, it reminded me of like a sort of oriental harem or something, just, you know, and viola da gambas everywhere and just beautiful things everywhere. I shouldn't say harem, but yeah, so I pretty much had to fly by my pants because I really don't know who to contact. Who's in charge of the Orpheum Consort right now? I have no idea with all those instruments. And they actually got into a bunch of trouble, not trouble, but absolute bullshit with the Italian customs. They're just trying to play concerts and the customs like seized their instruments and said, you have to have, you're transporting antiques over international borders, you know, like what? You know, like, because you actually, I think there is an Italian law about removing precious antiques from Italy, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how that,
Something called side piece you need to carry if you carry like protected kinds of wood around over the border.
yeah.
Many of these like woods were protected in the 17th or 18th century or something, or 19th.
Yeah.
But they are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess the these barbarian goons at customs, you know, they're like, duh. I mean, come on. He obviously owns all of his instruments. That's the whole thing about the Orpheum Consort is they belong to the people. They don't belong locked up in a museum cage. They should be played. They should be heard, you know? Yeah, so we're actually getting to the point where we can add color. Not quite yet, though. So actually my varnish is getting a little thick, and believe it or not, I've run out. If it's too thick, you'll get it building up. You don't want that. Oh. Can you believe it sucked up an Illy coffee can, or half of an Illy coffee can? Yeah, so I'm just going to cut that with a little alcohol. Just a splash, because it seems... I make it thick. Yeah, so it has a color. And it's a good color, actually. The color is yellow, and like I say, all we're doing is the antique ground. Most of this will be removed, believe it or not. Oh, so back to forgery. Forgery and antiquing. So Mouse, the Slovakian guy, I mean, he had all these like jailhouse tattoos. I really like the guy. I mean, what he's doing is not cool, right? But and I think he was also the thing that was really not cool. It's one thing to take an antique violin and make it look nicer and put it on eBay, but he's also putting in fake labels, so that's not cool. Well, I think a few of them had ballpoint pen, and I'm like, Mouse, they didn't use ballpoint. They didn't use ballpoint. Oh, wait a minute. I've got a little like puddle here. That's not cool. Yes, I'm talking to you, and it's okay. It's early enough on that it's So I went to Bolsner and I bought a fountain pen, and you know, not a fountain pen, but a nib, you know, to make, and some antique looking ink, and I gave it to him as a Christmas present, you know. So but that's probably not very cool, and Interpol is gonna be like, you've enabled forgery. No, I just gave someone a pen for Christmas. Give me a break. Was it at Bronco? Did you watch that movie Angel Heart yet?
Not yet.
Okay. That's what this reminded me of when I think it was an Angel Heart, when he had like a document, and he's like, they weren't in 1930 they weren't too big on ballpoint pen, so.
It had less prestige in the 80s, certainly.
Yeah, when was
old-fashioned pens, it was classier.
When was ballpoint pen invented? I'm not sure.
60s, certainly invented in the 60s, maybe even a bit earlier.
Okay.
It was sort of an novelty thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot earlier, I'm not sure.
I can see when I add color, this is just gonna look sweet. And yeah, again, the wood is.
When are you finished with this player? When it's all shiny and stuff?
Yeah, shiny, and when the wood is completely sealed everywhere. It won't be even because the wood is absorbing at different rates, and for me that is desired. I want that. I want the plate to vibrate unevenly. It's not a robot, you know. It's organic.
Ballpoint, patented in 1938, possibly invented in 1888.
Oh, okay. So Mouse, he could.
Controversy.
Sure, but you can't use blue. They probably had black, right? I don't know. You can't forge a violin label and use blue ballpoint pen, right? So yeah, that it really is a travesty, but that you look on my website, there's a Steiner interpretation of Johanna Metelkova. And she was reportedly the very first female violin maker, but I find that hard to believe because women tended to, violin makers' wives tended to assist their husbands in lutherie. This is a well documented fact, I think. So. Oh, that's another thing that you should read is Ben Hebert. You should read his blog. It's just really inspirational. I'll put a link to that also in this. If you, in the morning sometimes you wake up and just you're drinking coffee, you just don't, you're lacking that inspiration. You could read Ben's various blogs, and they're just so well written, and not only are you going to learn, but they're just inspiring. You're like, oh yeah, let's make instruments, you know? Yeah, I think he has a blog entry on female violin makers. I guess the point I was making is Metelkova, Johann. Metelkova instruments, you used to be able to find them in Vienna once in a while, because this was a family, and I think it was a rather large family. And I think it was more than a family. It was like a certain village that were just churning out the violins. So you had the Metelkovas, and you probably had their uncles and nephews all making instruments. But sadly, because me and Hassan sold all the antique violins in Vienna, you can't get them anymore. He's like, Bruder, es gibt keine Geigen mehr im Naschmarkt, ne? Also, weil wir haben schon alles verkauft, ja. Once in a while, if you get up at 5 in the morning with a headlamp, flash, you know, a headlight, flashlight, and you meet the trucks as they're coming, and say, you know, alte Geige. I think nowadays all of the Altwaren handlers, they already have their clients. So when they have an old violin, they just call this person or this person. All right. And so I'll probably edit out that part where the doorbell rang, but I like the idea of a long conversation between makers. I want to do like a video series of violin makers get drunk together and talk, you know. I think this would be really funny because they talk about interesting things, and when they're drinking, it's even more fun, you know. Speaking of of alcohol. When you're dealing with alcohol, you really should be wearing a ventilator. You know, because the fumes of alcohol are not good for your lungs. But since I'm invincible and immortal, as you know, since I was turned, you know, from human to immortal vampire, I can breathe all the fumes that I want. No, I'm kidding. You pass off. Yeah, we're not dealing with a lot of fumes right now, but we will be when we start adding, removing and adding color. Yeah, so you see, this is like already taking me almost an hour just to get. And one reason for that is that the surface is pretty rough on purpose. So it's really sucking it up, you know. Because the original, like I say, looks like it was run through a meat grinder. It's got so many scars, and the one thing I don't do is I don't make exact copies, right? I just don't do it. Number one, it doesn't interest me, and number two, I don't have the skill, you know, to make an exact copy down to every scratch. There are makers who do that. Well, obviously Roger Hargrave, he's a copyist, but he is a copyist who they have their own character too, you know. Another guy who does it really well is Michael Shakespeare in England. He makes perfect copies that are stunning, and they're right down to the scratch. And that is an honorable thing to do, but I just don't want to do it. I think I would be bored to death. It would drive me crazy. So I want an instrument it's going to have its own character, its own set of tool marks and scars, you know. Oh, we are really close. Yeah, like I say, I don't think anyone's going to watch these videos anyway, you know. They're not going to sit here for an hour, so we're just this is just for teaching you, you know. I had another YouTube channel that I used YouTube to post videos of antique violins that I would, oh, I got a hair here. That's not good. Your enemy is hair. Dust is okay, really, because some dust at this stage. When this is just the antique ground. Okay, hair is gone. If you have a hair and then cover it twice and it dries, it's going to be a big problem later. So hair is your enemy. But like I say, we're going to remove almost all of this. Yeah, so we have Buddhist monks and Bronco Springfield in the back.
Agonizing.
Not Bruce Springsteen. He's not here today. It's Bronco Springfield. You can Google him at www.BroncoSpringfieldDrinksMoreBeerThanNate.com. That website was taken down, I think. All right, so yeah, it's getting like saturated. Can you see? Hello?
To me?
No. You can, okay. You don't have to turn off your mic, man. We don't care if Diego's in this video. We want dogs in this video. We want howling dogs. Oh, man.
I don't think you want that in the video.
Ah, you're actually on the toilet. Oh, my God. Yeah, this is the easiest violin making school ever.
I'm not. I was.
Yeah, we don't care. We you know how the YouTubers, they click like and describe. Subscribe. You know. Diego. Well, this channel is different. We really don't care if you subscribe or not. And if you do, you're going to be subjected to terrible, terrible music compositions by myself, which are terrible. Diego. All right, so we're getting pretty saturated. But there are some areas that are still a little bit raw. And those will absorb more color, more patina. Man, it is really reacting to, now it's waking up. It's reacting to the brush. I don't know, you probably can't hear it with this microphone, even though I guess their condenser mics in these phones are pretty damn good on Apple.
When you're touching it, it gets brighter.
It's responding to the Tibetan monks in the background, the music. That's very good, because the music's not very loud. But when I touch it, it's just, you know.
Oh yeah, actually, yesterday I saw something about speakers, and they're using like frequency amps. I don't know what that is, but they're using frequency amps to make them sound better.
What do you mean, frequency amps? Like,
Well, they connect them to a frequency amp, and the frequency amp produces a frequency, which obviously goes through the speaker, lets the speaker vibrate, and they turn it up and down, and they do that for 24 hours, and then the speaker sounds like you've played it for 20 years, and it's supposed to sound much better.
oh, do loudspeakers sound better with time?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because the term is breaking in a loudspeaker, you know?
Oh, wow.
They're supposed to be broken in.
That's interesting.
That's what they say.
Yeah, well, this instrument is just basically a big amplifier of a molecule scatterer, so.
That's why I thought maybe the vibration of the monks is good for it.
Oh, yeah, well, any vibration is good for it. They make a thing called tone right, which is a vibrator. And they are...
It's like a frequency amp. Same thing.
It vibrates the instrument, and it has two settings, like, so it mimics a sort of fortissimo spiel, you know. And they work fantastic. Keith Hill, the guy I mentioned before, he has a section on his website about how great the tone rights are. The thing is, it won't make a bad instrument sound good, but it will amplify the inherent characteristics of that instrument. So if the instrument is good, it will amplify the good, you know.
It's like old vintage guitars from the 60s that have been played for 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're a couple little raw areas. Okay, we are almost ready. Yeah, it's just, it's reacting to my voice while I'm talking. I'm telling you, man, alcohol is good for wood. It's literally like speaking. I don't know, you probably can't hear it. It's taking the vibrations of my voice and amplify, like a clavichord would almost. This instrument is going to be sweet. It's gonna be incredible. It's just, So I think from now on, I'm only gonna make big, well, it's also that my head is here. So Diego. One thing I should point out is when you're varnishing, you want to look. You're looking down. You're seeing the sort of reflection of light. That's important because that's the only way to see if it's saturated. And when we do what I call color treatment or glazing, you got to be really careful. It looks like I'm just randomly putting this on and slopping it on, and that's true. But when you're glazing and doing the color treatment, you need to be really careful. And it's hard. It's really hard. A spiritus, an alcohol varnish is really hard to do. And that's why makers just do oil, Because oil is easy. You have plenty of time. But you make one mistake and it dries. It dries within a matter of seconds. That's why when I'm brushing this on, I can even touch it with my fingers, I mean, it's dry fast. So if you get a big, ugly puddle, so far we don't have any, it's going to be hard to get rid of that, even though we're going to be removing all of this, Okay, I think we're pretty ready. I got a couple. Okay, let's roll on color. Couple more little spots. Hold on. Not on color, but on patina. Yeah, leave it on. I mean, this video is boring. I can't imagine anyone watching this whole thing anyway. And I could fast forward it, but yeah, a conversation is good, Conversations are good. Well, you might have a question that is relevant to the 2 or 3 young violin makers who are actually watching this, and then that question would be valid. So if they want to hear those questions, they need to sit through the dog howling. It's just, that's the way it goes. So if you don't like it, click unsubscribe. And trust me, I'm not gonna be angry at you. It's like they all do that. Like, don't we already know to click like? We already know how to subscribe. Do you really need to tell me how? Like, every single guy, you know? Okay, let's roll on patina. So another good rule is when you're when you're done with one, always clean and always actually this varnish, it looks like it has a lot of dirt and crud in it, so I'm going to use I'm going to save that. So like, yeah, normally the whole instrument would be completely covered, you know? Well, I'm just going to do the top now with just the patina to demonstrate the technique to you. And then I'll probably... Huh? What?
The ring is part of the music, isn't it?
Oh, I'm listening to like Buddhist chanting. It helps me concentrate. And it's on half speed. I listen to everything slow, you know.
It sounds like a phone is ringing like every 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably annoying. Okay, anyway, this will help me concentrate, so. Okay, yeah, like I say, we're doing patina. So the way I do that is I just take a plate and then I take a block of wood to give it height. And I make a pool of lavender oil. And the lavender, yeah, this just angles the plate so it's tilted in my see how the puddle?
Yeah, okay.
Got a nice puddle there. So this is what I call, actually I need a little more angle, so I'll get a little fatter piece of wood maybe. Could try a peg. Yeah. And I just get a nice puddle based upon how much I'm going to do. So, like I say, the colors from Hammer Rule are good. The yellow is good, the black is good. I have black. What is this? This should be black. The black is actually, yeah, this is black. It's actually probably Negrosin. Negrosin is, but the thing about Negrosin is it's actually purple. It's not black, so. I'm just gonna do, no, that's yellow, okay. I couldn't tell. Yeah, so on everything I'm doing, I'm always gonna do a drop of yellow. Yeah, so. Right? It looked black, but it's yellow. Just a little touch of yellow because we're going towards yellow, but what we really are going towards is brown. So then I'm going to take some bitumen and Van Dyke brown. Bitumen. Sorry, hold on a second. Okay, this is actually ivory black. So I'll use a little bit of that.
Ivory black.
Mm-hmm. And this is bitumen. I also have liquid bitumen here. Then you get in the Spanish drogeria. Hammer Rule also makes powdered colors, but the brown, it says warm brown, but it's actually kind of orange, and yeah, that's kind of a problem. So then I make this kind of slather. No. This is just a little bit of patina. It's actually way, way, way too black, so. So the disadvantage of this method of patina, of adding patina, is that it's going to reduce the transparency some, you know? So that's kind of a downside. But, let me just double check. Okay. This is going to look crazy, but you ready?
I can't see it, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen that on guitars before,
Mm-hmm.
just to make the grain pop out more.
Mm-hmm.
But they send the black up down again.
Oh, they sand it. Huh.
Yeah, they when it's raw wood and it has some flaming,
Uh-huh.
you can actually paint it black or like and then sand it down again. And then in the flames, the black, you know,
Yeah.
the black makes the flames stick out more.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using your hand?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like that I'm a grease monkey, like on varnish days. You know, if I go into the grocery store, it looks like I've been working on motorcycles or something. And I don't care.
Yeah, just made a fine instrument.
I don't care. Now, I stopped caring what people think about me. The moment I stopped caring about what people think, my life quality just improved by like 70% or more, you know? Because it really doesn't matter what people think, you know? And let's face it, don't curse. People are stupid, let's face it. You know, most people, the raw and sheer barbarian brutality of human existence in general.
You're making friends on YouTube, huh? Most people stupid. Yeah, well, it's true. It's true.
Well, I don't know if you've ever read Voltaire, but, you know, what is in Candide, you know, you have I guess I would be the pessimistic voice in that. Yeah, so this is actually a little bit blacker than I want. I would prefer to have just a brown.
So when you're done with this, what's the next step?
Remove it. Now is a good time to stain your because no antique instrument has white. So I'm staining the inside. Whoa, what was that? Staining the inside of the sound holes here. Man, it is just reacting. It's like, oh. The slightest touch. It was reacting, but not as much. When I added this varnish, it woke up. You know, like, whoo.
That's a woke cello.
Politically correct. Oh yeah, Bill Mahler. I think he's hilarious. I don't know if you ever watch him. He has that. He has this separate thing where he just talks to people and they get drunk. You know, like him and Sean Penn getting drunk. I thought we should do like violin makers round table. You know.
I think I've seen one episode.
Yeah, it depends on who the person is. Let's face it, drunk people are really boring, right? They're not fun to... Unless you're also drunk, then it's fun, but...
Yeah, drunk people are annoying unless you're drunk.
Unless you're drunk, yeah. Okay, so I see some tool marks that I don't like here. Hopefully, you're going to remove them, right? So now, I take a dry cloth and I remove it.
Yeah, that's a similar technique to what I saw on guitar.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, only you got the varnish underneath.
Yeah, you would never do this on... One thing you never do is you never stain the wood directly. Man, it is just... Hello! Well, I'm not done, actually. This is way too dark. If you tried to do... I don't know, you could in theory. You got lots of scars. If you tried to do anything on top of this, it would look terrible. And this is kind of what I wanted. I mean, as far as the amount of scarage and rough tool markings, you know. So now I'm going to take some alcohol.
Is there anything on your workbench to protect it from scratches?
No, because I like scratches. I have a bunch of tools that I use later to add scratches. This one is pretty good. It's just seashells. You got to read the Hargrave stuff. You know, you haven't read it. I can tell by the way you're talking. So now I take a little alcohol and you want it damp, but not soaking. And I remove it all. Right? And you can start to get artistic with this. So this is removing color, and it's also removing varnish. I'm going to have to abscond with your paper towels.
Sure.
Yeah, this video is crazy long. So what we're probably going to do is do this same treatment to the whole thing, and then cut and edit the video. So now you can get
Show a part of it, you know, like a part of every step.
Yeah, probably. You can get artistic now. Oh, I was going to say you don't want to really saturate, like pour the alcohol on, because it can actually warp the wood.
You can also
And actually now the sun is starting to reflect from the building across the street. So I can't work. You can't see color when the sun's shining in your face, and you're not going to see an accurate representation of color. Again, we're not even starting to do color. All we're doing is patina. Now, as I'm doing this, I can feel it waking up more. It's weird. I mean, Moko says this in Kunst des Geigenbau, that alcohol is good for wood. I believe I have to find that and read that again because I can't remember exactly. But again,
But you just said it could warm the wood. I mean,
yeah, because it's just like water. It's a liquid. If you put wood into water, it will swell and expand, you know?
sure.
And that's why instruments crack. It's because people put them next to their radiators. So now I've got a choice of what to leave and how much, and that's an artistic choice. But for me, this is a little. What I'm going to remove almost all of this because it's a little too crazy. But I do have. I'll show you in a minute. You might not be able to see from your view because of the light is Hold on a second. Let me get this. I actually want to do this now before I don't want it drying so much. So I'm removing the varnish but what is going in here? The antique ground actually is alcohol and lavender oil and some varnish, and it starts becoming smooth. Oh, I need to rock and roll on this because I want to get most of this stuff. This is a little too extreme for me. But I do want, man, it is just reacting. This could be the greatest bass instrument I've ever made, based upon how it's responding. But I haven't made that many, you know. I've made over 100 violas. I stopped counting violas. I've made over 100. I have no, I really don't know. Okay, so. Yeah, this is pretty extreme. I'm gonna remove more of this. I do want a kind of I want a lot of shadows. I want this to, yeah, I want this to really look really look real, really look old. I want people to look at it and be like, wow, where did you get that? Got it from Nate Tabor. Yeah, one thing I don't want is the rosette turning black because it's plumb. Yeah, so to your question, I'm not protecting the back because I want random scratches. When you try to make scratches, you'd be surprised like how hard it is to do random ones. You know?
Yeah, I did that with guitars, and it's really hard to make it look random.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, so you've done some antiquing before.
Yeah, like with
Okay. Yeah, so you see. Ah, it's a little extreme up. This is bothering me. Hold on a second. You'd be surprised though that when you think something's really dramatic, by the time you get to the very end, it's not. Yeah. But this part right here bothers me, even though it's under the fingerboard.
But it could be could be beneficial because underneath the fingerboard, all the dirt is usually like collecting, you know.
Yeah.
So if that's a little darker, it may look very real, you know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what I've sacrificed, you know what? I don't like this. This is under the tailpiece, but I don't like this part either. You see how you have these kind of spots? It doesn't look real. So
Yeah.
look, I can remove most of it. It will get whiter and whiter the more I do this. Yeah, this is where you make artistic choices, and yeah, I do like how you have these black grain lines, and they're random, you know. Hello, man. I'm honestly this instrument is going to be killer. It's just gonna roar. Yeah, I mean, this is like under the tailpiece, but it kind of...
If you chose to sand it down now, like to remove more of it, would that destroy the instrument or?
You wouldn't want to do any sanding because it would make it thinner, and I've got this perfectly tuned to what I think is the best, you know. So I wouldn't. No, I mean you could sand. I'd say you want to use. The reason that I have these black lines is that I take a scraper, and that's not exactly razor sharp, and I scrape diagonally across the grain. And I guess some people call that springing the grain, and there's different techniques, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this patina, actually. So now, the next phase would be add more varnish, then add more patina, then remove, and etc., etc., etc. But I think now that the sun is coming in, we
So with the same technique, like add what's the next varnish is gonna be oil-based, isn't it?
No. Everything is alcohol up to the very end, and it's very, very hard to do.
Didn't you? Oh, okay.
We're trying to we're going from white to brown. So the instrument was white in the beginning,
Yeah.
and we need to do brown, because if you do yellow upon white, you're going to have a pineapple, a banana colored instrument.
Sure.
It won't look real. So, and I learned this from Thomas Kreutzer in Mittenwald, the wood seller. He said you want your ground varnish to look like the side of that barn, and he points to this old, rugged, crappy 300-year-old barn, and that was a moment that changed. Like one sentence from him kind of changed how I work. You know, he's a cool guy. I wish he was still selling wood. So yeah, you want to do brown, and then yeah, that'll be a different video. The color treatment will be different, but
And make it shiny.
first you're getting the wood completely saturated. Then you're adding your patina, removing, and then once we get all the patina, then we're going to start with our first brown glazing treatment, which means I'm actually adding brown color. So what I've sacrificed with Haselfichte, these lines may or may not, I don't know if you can see these little hazels, you know. Haselfichte is wood used, bear claw spruce, I believe in English, and it was used by all the German Füssen makers because it's super resonant. There are different species of spruce. And in my opinion, the best comes from traditional tone wood in Mariazell, Austria. That's traditional tone wood. .ate. Okay, so we're going to stop because the sun is coming in. This video is an hour and a half long. And I'm going to remove some more patina near the rosette because that's still kind of bothering me. But like I say, I'm going to do this several times and then do with the slurry, maybe do a little less concentrated because that was a pretty intense. I can still remove some of this, and I may just lower the blind and kind of artistically coming in on certain points. I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, you know. It's up to you, you know, but in the end, you will not be able to tell that it's a new instrument. I promise you.
It already looks like a freshly made cello that stood outside in the Galician rain for 1 winter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll continue. I'll cut this and then, yeah, we'll see.